Tampa is home to a significant population of Venezuelan residents. South Florida is home to the largest Venezuelan community in the country. As Washington realigns its relationship with Venezuela, immigration protections are rolled back and legal uncertainty is growing. When U.S. forces captured Nicolás Maduro, reaction among Venezuelans in Florida were immediate and deeply personal.
Today, justice is being served. Justice is being served for all Venezuelans who left our country to demonstrate who we are.
While the international story evolves, so do concerns at home, mainly around immigration policy. The federal government ended temporary protected status, or TPS, for Venezuelans months ago. This removed a legal shield that temporarily allowed many to live and work in the U.S., many of whom might also face political persecution if deported. The Trump administration argues that conditions in Venezuela have now changed and that Venezuelans should pursue other paths to stay in the U.S., such as refugee or asylum claims, processes that are often lengthy and uncertain. Florida leaders critical of the policy say it's more dangerous than ever for Venezuelans to return.
But going back now for many of these families would be foolish, would be unsafe. Political prisoners have still not been released. If TPS is restored tomorrow, we have tens of thousands of people, breadwinners, who could go back to work.
In places like Doral in Miami-Dade County, community leaders say the impact has been immediate for a region that's home to almost 40% of the U.S. Venezuelan population.
There's so much meaning behind finally having a glimmer of hope and light of having our country freed for so many years. We have generations in Venezuela that don't know what liberty is.
And Norma, I'd like to ask you, you are one of the most high-profile Venezuelan Americans in the Tampa Bay region. What was your reaction when you first heard the news of the extraction of Maduro?
My first reaction was I was very happy at the beginning, but I was also very scared of what was going on because I was receiving calls from my people in Venezuela and the repression there was very bad and I was really concerned about it. But I knew deep in my heart that the beginning of the end was starting and my people were going to recover their freedom and democracy there very soon.
There are so many people who are talking about, describing Maduro in different language, right? Some are saying that he is the rightful, legitimate leader of a sovereign country. Others say he is a drug trafficker, a dictator. When you talk to folks about Maduro and what's happening there, how do you describe him?
Maduro is the head of a criminal organization. He's not the president-elect. He lost the election in 2024 by 70% of the vote, and he didn't relinquish the power. He decided that he was going to stay, and the people in Venezuela got very, very scared, and they decided not to do anything because they knew what was coming. And we were waiting for all these conversations to happen, and maybe a different turn in Venezuela would come, but he was never going to leave the country. So for us, the United States went there and instructed him. For us was excellent news, really.
Roberto, I'd like to, ask you, Venezuelans aren't the only ones with strong, passionate opinions about what's going on. As Norma just mentioned, the election in 2024, the Carter Center was there, one of the only in-country organization, international observer of the elections, and they did not certify the elections as democratic. Then Secretary of State Tony Blinken also said that there were irregularities and was not a democratic process. So your opinion about, not your opinion so much as your reaction to what's happening and what you're hearing in the Hispanic community.
Yeah, I think a lot of uncertainty and definitely a lot of fear, because I have employees that are on temporary protection status, and if that doesn't get resolved, then I'm not going to be able to legally hire them. So So trying to understand what does that look like for a huge population that lives in the state that got here, because by extracting Maduro out of that country, we recognizing that it wasn't good. So how are we trying to send this community of people back to a situation that is not fair or that is uncertain?
For so many of us, as we look at the images of what's happening inside Venezuela now, they are just they are external images. They're not lived experiences.
That's right.
You have a different perspective when you look at these images. You were how old when the U.S. went in and extracted Manuel Antonio Noriega from Panama, and what was living there like in post-extraction?
Yeah, it was 11. I was 11 years old, and I can tell you that when it happened, it didn't happen overnight. It started December 19, but it actually got started January 3rd. So for like about 2 weeks, they were playing this cat and mouse game with 5,000, 10,000 troops on site, and the entire country was under a military lockdown from a foreign country. So essentially, the U.S. took over Panama for like about 2 weeks. But after his extraction, they had a duly elected government that they had already won the election on May 1989, so like about 6 months before Noriega declared that those elections were null and void. So it was a different process and a different plan. I think that the lack of follow through or the lack of foresight in this particular incident of an extraction, there is not a follow through of what's going to happen next. So a lot of people are feeling they can't go to the grocery store, they can't go out to work, they don't know what's going to happen.
Were you going to school? Was your family going to work?
School was effectively canceled for the foreseeable future, and then we didn't know where we could get our next meal because all the grocery stores were closed. What I remember vividly was one of these Walter Cronkite type reporters that was in a shirt and tie that day showed up in a t-shirt on TV telling everybody, trying to keep them abreast of what's happening. We had an elected official that lived right next to us, and he had, because he was part of the opposition at the time, he had 24/7 security from the U.S. So it was a very uncertain time.
And when you hear Roberto describe that, Norma, that's kind of sounds like what you're hearing from your folks, your contacts within Venezuela now.
No, not really. Completely different. People are very happy. What you should understand is 27 years of oppression, of hunger, of violation of human rights in Venezuela, and the international organizations doing nothing about it, and all of a sudden they see a light in this process that they are going to be free again. Everybody's happy. They don't care at this point if they have to wait, if there is still going to be problems, if there is still going to be hunger in the country. They don't care about that. All they care is that the process continues, and we go to the transition, and the president-elect comes, or we get new elections in Venezuela. That's all it matters. Be free.
Before we go to Joe, I'd like to ask the two of you, the Hispanic leaders in the community, about the observation that Maria Carino Machado is someone who has been an inspiration to so many with her resistance to the regime of Maduro. Are you all disappointed, or what is your view that she is not being included so far in the transition that the Trump administration has chosen to work directly with Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, who's now been sworn in? I'd like to start with you, Roberto.
I think a disappointment is a fair statement, because that's the person that all these people have known and recognized, and it's a name, and she's also praised them for doing the extraction and everything else. So I think the disappointment is the right word for that.
What would you say, Norma?
Well, at the beginning I was disappointed, but then I started reading about it and listening to Marco Rubio and the politician talking about it, and then I knew that they couldn't bring her into the country at this moment. She will be in danger, and the president-elect will be in danger if they bring them here. I mean, this is a criminal organization. They only extracted the head. The rest of this criminal organization is still in power. Now, the United States cannot go there and bring the new leaders. No. They need to go through the transition and then decide when it will be safe for her to be there.
Joe, as the chair in the Tampa City Council when you were there, and you were also represented the districts at large, so you had access and interactions with voters and with residents across the Tampa municipality, some Hispanic, some not. What is your community telling you? What has been the reaction, and how has it changed in the days following January 3rd?
That's a great question, Lissette. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be on this show with these two people that I've known and respected for a long time. As you know, my establishment, my business is in West Tampa, and that's highly Hispanic. The Venezuelan people that I know have been talking for years. We need to take back our country. We need to take back our country. And they are elated right now. But now the question that I'm hearing from Venezuelan people are, how? You've done this. This administration, yes, has gotten rid of that cancer that we have within our country, but what is next? And I feel the transparency coming from Washington is just not there. They haven't said how they're going to change the government, what they're going to do once they get down there. This is a major decision in our hemisphere that needs to have the citizens of Venezuela make the decisions. Sure, the United States can be there as an advisory, but I'm still waiting to hear, after the honeymoon period is over with, what the citizens of Venezuelans want. So in my opinion, the Venezuelans are saying, look, this is great, but we need to have an open election as soon as we possibly can to decide who's going to rule our government. But there are so many things that need to be done. Separation of powers, judicial, military, president.
The Tampa Bay region is also home to a very large Cuban population that is, many of whom are asking, is Cuba next? Is Colombia next? What are you hearing?
I'm hearing, por favor. The Cubans are saying, please, please. But we have to make sure that all these infrastructures in these countries, we can't just send Venezuelans back from the United States to go to a country that's lacking infrastructure. So this administration is going to have to tell us how things are going to get done. So far, they haven't shown me that.